The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Thanks to all these fans that come out today on Monday, man. This is awesome.
Look at all these fans over here along the fence. Hey, they say this is a tough place to pass, man. You started at the back and you won by over 9 seconds. You made it look easy.
I promise it wasn't easy. It was a lot of work. It was tough, but this race car, man, it was just incredible.
Welcome to episode 106 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Tuesday, May 17th, 2019. I'm your host, Eric Young. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, we had a late race this weekend on Monday. We're here on Tuesday to talk about it. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Yeah, so got to watch the race on a Monday. Did you get a chance? I don't know if you watched it live. Probably not, right?
Not live, no. Whenever there's a race on a Monday, it's really tough. So I usually have the Twitter going just so I can kind of keep tabs. And actually, the NASCAR media did a pretty good job of like updates with a lot more. I noticed a lot more clips.
Okay.
I felt like during a Monday. So that was pretty helpful. So I was able to kind of keep tabs along the way.
That's the way to do it. See, I still have not done the whole try to follow it on Twitter, and not watch it type of thing. I kind of kept track of the first stage-ish at work. I had it live playing next to me while I was working. Went to lunch and caught pretty much the rest of the first stage. Went back to work. Came home after work, caught the second stage, and then had a work meeting that I had to go to in the evening, and then came home to start watching it, and then ended up going to dinner, and finally got to watch the end of the race last night. So
You definitely watched it in chunks, that's for sure.
yeah, and you know what? I wanted to say that might have been why I was not as disappointed with this race as it seems like a lot of people were. We'll get to the talking about the race and everything, but because I watched it in chunks, I think I was able to appreciate the race a little bit more than if I'd have sat through 400 miles straight through. Maybe it wouldn't have been quite as good to me. But let's get to the results first. Martin Truex Jr. gets his second win of 2019, dominates the last stage pretty much to get the win. Let's see, I should have been prepared here and had everything up in front of me, but I managed to click on the wrong thing. So his 21st victory, 488 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series starts. Second victory of the year, 7th top 10 finish. His third victory and 15th top 10 finish in 27 races at Dover. So Dover's not a bad track for Truex. It's also where he won the Xfinity Championship there. And did he win his first Cup race there?
First
Okay.
Cup race, driving the #1 Bass Pro Shops DEI Chevy.
That's
way
what I
back
thought.
when. The Wayback Machine.
Yeah. Truex leads 132 laps, second only to Chase Elliott, who led 145 laps on the day. Those are the only guys with triple-digit numbers. The only other one even close to him, Brad Keselowski, led 58 laps on the day as well. Keselowski came home 12th. Let's see. Chase Elliott was able to muster a 6th place finish after 5th place, after pretty much looking like the guy to beat in the first half of the race for the most part.
Yeah, I really thought he was going to take that first stage, and Larson was chipping away at him, and then, it ended up being Logano at the end who kind of came almost kind of like he came out of nowhere late and got that stage.
Yeah. Larson did Larson things, finished third despite being right there, kind of on the edge.
He was really good.
Didn't lead any laps, but was there. And Alex Bowman, man, comes home with a 2nd place finish. Both, I'll tell you, both Bowman and William Byron ran really well during the day too.
Yeah, all the Hendrick Chevys were pretty good. Johnson, I know Johnson didn't finish as well, but he was in the mix for a little bit too.
Well, at one point they were all in the top 10, which is not something we've said.
Right.
One with Chevy and one with Hendrick. So
I think for them not getting the win, they'll take this. They'll take this every week for a little while, especially showing some speed. You had excuse me, geez, Elliott was pole center. I'm bumbling through
That's
my
all right.
done
I've
looking at-
already started doing that
Yeah,
tonight too. It's going to be one of those nights, guys.
it is. Yeah, and I'm still battling some sort of illness, as you guys can probably hear. So this is week 3 of that. So anyway, Chase Elliott was the pole setter, and then Byron was second. So man, they brought some fast pieces, and I think Hendrick Motorsports is probably really happy with the result.
There was one point in this race that I just kind of felt like, man, we're seeing that youth, movement again that we haven't seen. We kind of hinted at it last year, like, oh my gosh, it's coming, and then all the old guys kept winning. And yeah,
Right.
Martin Truex did get the win, but you had Alex Bowman running well. Kyle Larson was up there. Chase Elliott was up there and dominating the first half of the race. Eric Jones was running well. William Byron was up there. Suarez was running okay. I mean, you had these guys. For a while, it seemed like the guys that you expect to run up front just weren't there.
Yeah, it was kind of it was just a weird Dover race, I felt like. But we come off the quote unquote cookie cutters,
Right.
and it seems like we get a little bit of it mixes up the field just a little bit. Larson I thought was a great example of he's had a lot of bad luck this season, had a lot of bad runs, but he was searching for lines, just looked like the
Yeah.
Larson, looked like the Larson from 2 years ago who was winning races. He was, kind of all over the track, had a lot of speed. And Chase Elliott, continuing that momentum, that was really good to see as well. He was pretty quiet the first part of the season, but obviously the win at Talladega, and he came out of the gates really strong at Dover with another good run.
Dover's one of those tracks to me that's like Pocono or Indy in that we don't run another track like this. There is not a track that you can go, oh, that's like Dover,
Right. Yeah.
So it's one of those races that is just an oddball, and you don't necessarily know what to expect. We didn't really know what to expect this week with this aero package. I kind of predicted last week, I don't know if I did it on the podcast, but kind of felt like it probably wasn't going to be the greatest race of the year. And based on fan reaction, it wasn't. But again,
and driver reaction for that matter.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second here too. But again, we had guys up front that we haven't seen up front, and again, Truex comes out and gets the win and spoils that.
Yeah.
But still,
Sounds a lot like 2018 to me. But
yeah. So, James, you got here in the notes. Do we call this a win for Chevrolet?
I think so. I think they showed a lot of promise today. They had a lot of guys up front. Didn't get the win that I think they want. They want to win somewhere that's not a restrictor plate track, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, Chase Elliott's really showing us something right now, and Larson was really good. And then we just talked about how great the Hendrick cars were all weekend. I mean, that is the first. I can't recall. Chase Elliott was good last year. He was kind of an outlier though. I don't recall the Chevrolet contingent running as well as a group as they did on Monday.
Well, I feel like Chase Elliott is the proof that last year wasn't particularly a Chevy problem, because Chase did run well. He did get wins last year.
Yeah,
But-
he did. He came on strong after that, kind of breaking through at the Glen, and then
Right.
obviously he won Dover, and then he also won Kansas, where we're heading next week. So yeah, this might be a nice little sweet spot for him that he's in right now too.
Here's the only concern I have for the Chevys is I agree this is definitely a win. I mean, anytime you've got, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 Chevys in the top 10. That's a pretty big deal right now for Chevy.
Yeah, usually they're stacked at the bottom of the top 10, if anything.
Right.
There are they got 3 in the top 5, which has been dominated by Ford and Toyota for the most part of 2 seasons.
The problem that I have though is that this is a high downforce, high horsepower track. This isn't what we're going to see the most of the season. So we need to see him have speed there too. We need to see him have speed this weekend at Kansas. At these tracks, Michigan, whatever, these tracks that are going to be the package that we see more this season. So to me, this is like winning at a restrictor plate track. It doesn't matter because it's only a small fraction of the actual races for the season. So,
well, and I think, just to play devil's advocate with you though, I think it does matter for the playoff stakes that could
true.
come at later in the season at Dover. If Chase Elliott, for example, needs a win to advance or something later, I'm not sure. I'm not looking at the schedule, but Dover's one of those later playoff races.
Right.
That could be a huge benefit to some of these teams who, like you said, Eric, they might not be great at the mile and a half. So this might be one of those opportunities. We're talking about Dover, maybe the Roval. this is something to kind of keep an eye on, moving forward into the playoffs. It's hard to think about it. You would think, but we're already, a quarter of the way done with the season almost. So,
Yeah.
it's there. Well, I guess we're over a quarter of the way actually. So yeah, we're it's time to actually start thinking about it a little bit.
Right. All right. Let's talk about the big giant pedigree dog food elephant in the room. I was gonna go M&Ms, but we were pedigree this weekend.
He was pedigree, yes.
So Kyle Busch spoke out about this package, as did what is it, Bob Levine? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
Family Racing.
Yep.
He spoke out about it as well. Basically, people weren't happy, drivers weren't happy, some fans weren't happy. Well, probably more fans than drivers. With this package, they didn't like what we saw. Kyle Busch and Levine basically said the package sucks. And Steve O'Donnell was on Sirius XM earlier today and talked a little bit about it. And one thing I do want to point out that O'Donnell references in this, I'll play a little clip from it. O'Donnell mentions the fact that Kyle this weekend tied the record for most top 10 finishes in a row with his top 10 finish this weekend at the track with the package that sucks. So
yeah, 11 for 11, right, Eric? Is that where he's at right now?
I
I'm
think
looking
so.
at it. I'm going to look at his stats really quick, but I'm pretty sure he's 11 for 11. Yeah, he's 11 for 11 with 6 top 5s and 3 wins.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Now, Kyle historically is the guy that also said the package sucked in the car tomorrow when he won the first race at Bristol. So just throwing all that out there for the little bit of information for you. But here's what O'Donnell had to say on Sirius XM earlier today.
Well, I'd probably start with, didn't have the race he wanted. So I'm not surprised at what he said. So, I think what's unfortunate is, you look at he actually tied a record yesterday, and the question I'm asked is about his comments post-race. No disrespect to you, I'd ask the same question. I think you're right, and his teammate was able to win and pass every car in the field, but, he chose to make the comments he did. So, I think, if you look at the package, no matter what we've put out there, right, drivers always say it's hard to pass. And our comment back to that, I think, has always been that, these are the best drivers in the world, and it's going to be hard to pass them. I brought up before, right, that this is one of our most challenging tracks. So typically, we see some challenges in passing at Dover. So, talked about the last stage. I think that we would have liked to see a little bit closer racing, certainly in the last stage, but also don't want to take anything away from Truex and what his team was able to do. So,
all right, so I'm gonna go with a little bit of information here as we start this discussion. So I decided to look at some stats after hearing this clip and hearing Kyle's comments and whatnot. So this weekend's Dover race, Kyle Busch was ranked second in quality passes on the day. Kyle Busch had 45 quality passes, as NASCAR calls it, according to their stats. This is based on their loop data around the track. Alex Bowman was number 1 with 48 quality passes. Martin Truex Jr., who came from the back, by the way, to win the race, he was 9th with, let me go across the line here, 32 quality passes. So Kyle Busch, 45 quality passes. His average at Dover International Speedway for quality passes, he is number 1 on the average list, is 25.3. So I'd say Kyle did pretty good in the passing department. So I really don't know what he's complaining about, other than the fact, as O'Donnell notes, Kyle sucked on the day. I mean, he wasn't a contender. He hasn't. Yeah, exactly. For him. He hasn't been a contender in the spring race at Dover for a long time. And I don't know how you can argue with those stats.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously fast, right? He's bringing a ton of speed. He's able to make a lot of passes. And maybe where his frustration may lie is when he got up to the, elite part of the field, he maybe bottlenecked, around the track and couldn't make any progress.
I think it's just that Kyle hasn't gotten to run an Xfinity race in a few weeks, so he's feeling like he hasn't passed enough cars.
That might be. Yeah, I mean, he dropped his season average finish down to 5 after Monday. So I don't know. I understand that he gets frustrated. If I were him, I don't know, because the way he's been running this year, wouldn't you just tiptoe around? You might not like the package, but boy, you're really good at it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just the rules of each track? Wouldn't you just kind of lay low and just take it for the season? I don't know.
Well, I mean that's
What do you? I
that's
mean, what
not
do you?
that's not Kyle, which is I think is
Well,
why the
that's
people
true.
that like Kyle.
Well, yeah,
I I don't know about you, James, but I didn't feel like there was. Let's put it this way: I had such low expectations for this race that the race exceeded my expectations. I was actually pretty satisfied with the passing. I was impressed with the fact that they could pass without running into each other or running into the wall. I thought it was a decent race. I mean, yeah, Truex ran away with it at the end, and maybe it's a testament to Fox doing a good job of not following Truex and following the battles in the field. But I felt like I saw passing. I don't know what everybody's complaining about, really.
yeah. Is everybody just having like Talladega withdrawals? Is that where
Right.
we're at?
It's
I
Dover. Dover is not a
Yeah.
big passing track. It's just not. And I was expecting a one groove around the bottom. And yes, if you looked at the track, the groove was heavier at the bottom, but people were running up high. People were running in the
Yeah.
middle.
Right.
I
And
think
I
it was a
think
better race than what it could have been.
these drivers don't like the high corner speeds.
Right.
They never have. They never will. And if they think that they're going too fast through the corners, we as the fans are going to hear about it.
Right.
It's just the way it is. And to be on Kyle's side here though, Kyle is a champion in this sport and has every right to go out there and make his voice heard.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I don't mind it. As long as it's not every week.
But
And he's
here's
just bashing.
that's
bashing,
the problem, though. That's the problem. Kyle bitches about the package that allows you to run up on each other, and you can't race, you can't spread out, you can't. And then now here's this one where now you can spread out. You have some horsepower, you can't pass. It's tough to pass, and he's complaining about this one. It's like, okay, make up your freaking mind.
Yeah,
The-
and he's just
The
he's
thing
just
is everybody honestly, and you know what, James, I've had some thoughts on all this stuff over the past couple of weeks. The Supercross season wrapped up this year, and Supercross, again, I've referenced this all the time. Supercross is gimmicky enough. They do all kinds of silly things in their season, but their point standings are pure point standings. They don't do stage racing. They don't do, when if the points leader doesn't make it out of the heat race and make it out of the last chance race into the final, guess what? They don't race. They don't cheapen anything with that stuff. And I feel like we keep cheapening stuff with our sport. It's like, again, I love this point system. I think it's great. But does it cheapen the end result? Yes, it does, because the champion isn't like it used to be. And the stage racing, does it cheapen it? Yes, it does. Is it more entertaining? Yes, I agree. Do I want them to change it back? No, I don't. But let's stop complaining every time something isn't just freaking spectacular.
right. And
Just
if it's
let
not,
the race happen. God.
that's a really good soapbox. I didn't mean to step on you. But you bring up a good point too, though. If it's not the drivers complaining, my God, it's the fans,
Right.
and it's one or the other every single week.
Everybody just let's put it this way. Here's the deal.
There's always a tangent, right? There's always a tangent.
Here's the deal. This is the package we have this season. Shut up and watch the racing.
Just race it. Yeah, it is what it is.
Next year, we can change it. Obviously,
I
we're
s-
going to know in a couple weeks what we're looking toward for next year.
Yeah, this is the hot thing of the week this week. Last week it was don't interview the drivers at the start finish line. That's
Yeah.
the big thing NASCAR fans were squealing about, and now it's now
What
it's
the
this
hell's
thing.
up with
So,
that?
I'd like to.
I
know.
love the start finish line interview.
Yeah, people.
Love it.
I don't know.
And I
don't know,
think
people are-
Fox is doing it right, because at least they're not doing the same awkward interview in Victory Lane like NBC was. Fox is
Right.
doing the booth interviews in Victory Lane. That's great. I love that. That's awesome.
I'd like to try this week to start the new tangent and really get people on board with that thing that Kyle's trying to grow on his face, and get people out as outraged as I am about that. That's not a beard. I don't know what.
Have
it
you
is.
heard what happened?
I have not heard what happened, but boy, is it bad.
Kyle
That's all I
talked
know.
about it. He talked about it. I don't remember where I saw it, but basically he went to the West Coast swing and forgot his razor, and he didn't shave. And
my-
then he did well, and he's like, okay, I'll just keep it. And so he's continuing to do what he's doing.
It's really bad. I mean, right? It's really bad.
I don't know. I don't care what they have on their face. Shoot, I was a Kyle Petty fan when Kyle Petty had a freaking ponytail down to his rear.
Kyle can't buy a razor.
Maybe
That's cockamamie. I don't know.
he's probably, he's got to buy a Gillette because of the Young Guns thing back in the day. So, I mean, maybe they didn't have any Gillettes there. I don't know. Who knows?
Hopefully NASCAR fans.
When's the
will
last
jump
time
on-
you've been on the West Coast, James? Maybe the razors are different out
Oh,
there.
I've never been on the West Coast.
There
no.
you go. So you don't know.
Yeah, I don't go past Indiana, man. That's it. That's as far as I'm too scared to go out that far.
Man, you need to branch out.
I'm
California's
just
great.
I'm just I'm just stuck here in the Midwest. It's all.
I love
That's all I
California.
know.
All right. So what else? Winners and losers on today. Who we got?
Oh boy. Well, we talked about a lot of the winners.
Yeah.
I mean, William Byron really sticks out to me. Eric Jones.
Nobody really jumps out to me as losers. I mean, Denny Hamlin kind of had a
Yeah, but
crappy
he was
day.
having issues,
Right.
and we'll talk about those maybe here in a second. But yeah, he had some issues. Gosh,
I
yeah,
mean, really, it's kind of like the guys you expect to be up front were kind of up
Stenhouse.
front.
yeah. Stenhouse was actually sounded like he was running pretty good early on, and then he had some issues, caused a caution.
Yeah.
Ricky Spinhouse. So that happened. Yeah, man, nobody's really sticking out. I think actually I think a 17th place finish for Paul Menard's probably as well as he's been doing.
Yeah,
Ryan
that's-
Newman.
I think that's notable. Yeah. Both
Yeah,
those are
Ryan
notable.
Newman's been running really good, and you talked about the horsepower thing. Ryan Newman had cranked out a couple of top tens, and then we upped the power, and we're back down to 18th. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's something to keep an eye on with Roush Fenway. But yeah, that's about it, man. It was some new guys in the top 10, and some of the old guard kind of slipping back a little bit, but still Truex at the top. So
I want to point out again that this is the only thing that could be better than this for Alex Bowman is to win, because I mean, obviously it's second place. So the only thing better than second place is to win, but this is basically a win for Alex Bowman.
yeah, he needs it.
Yeah.
He needed it. He needed this run.
An interesting stat that Fox put out this during the race and then put it out like 48 more times because that's what we do on TV is that Alex Bowman has apparently finished in every position in the field from second to 43rd except for first, which is kind of
That's great.
interesting.
That's really great. I wonder how many drivers have actually done that.
I don't know. I think it'd be pretty tough.
Is that the equivalent of hitting the cycle in baseball or something? I don't know. I don't know
Probably.
how you would.
I would assume most have not done that because Alex has had, he ran the field filler, area for a while. So he's got those.
He got the 30s and late
Exactly.
20s covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually I guarantee you like a Denny Hamlin or Kyle Busch or whatever, they've got some 40th, 38th, that sort of thing, but you're not going to see a Kyle Busch finish in like 29th, 32nd, in that range.
Yeah.
I bet you he's never finished there.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Absolutely.
it's
That's
interesting.
good. I like
But-
that.
Yeah. But thanks to Fox for
They
going
beat it to
over
death.
it and over
Yeah.
it and over it. So,
Yeah. Just beat it to death.
yeah. Anything else before we put the race in the rear view?
I think that's it, man. I think that's it. We got a short week. They're on to Kansas now.
Yeah, we run a Saturday night race after a Monday race. Oh, I wanted to point that out. Truex, this is the reason I used the clip that I used in the beginning was because Truex referenced the crowd at Dover. I personally, if I would have watched that race not knowing what day it was, I would have thought that was a Sunday crowd.
Yeah,
I thought it was
looked
a really
It did
good
look
crowd
good.
for a Monday crowd.
Good for them.
Yeah. And I don't know if
Yeah.
they've pulled that many seats out of that place that it just, that the crowd that was there was able to fill in enough to where it looked decent. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't any less than what we've seen at other tracks. There weren't any more empty seats. So, yeah, awesome that the fans. I mean, I know the weather was threatening all week, so it wasn't a big surprise. I'm sure a lot of people planned that in their schedule, but good on them for being able to fill that place. And NASCAR did everything they could do to try to get that thing in. We had cars on the track ready to go on Sunday, and then the rain fell, and they had to park them. And once they parked, it was over. So,
Yep.
but I think all around it worked out well. Monday weather was beautiful, absolutely perfect. So it was good to see. So
Yeah.
let's talk some news, James. There's not a whole heck of a lot to talk about. Let's start with the millennial car for
Yeah, you and I are going to get into it on this one.
the Kevin Harvick millennial car. Well, I went on Reddit and did some reading on it too to see what everybody else thought and see if you were the lone whiner on this car. And I'm sad to say that I think you are.
Really?
I think so. Everybody seemed to be pretty happy with the fact that they made good on it. So if you missed it, back at Homestead, Busch Beer put out a thing on Twitter that they were so confident that Kevin Harvick was going to win the race that if he didn't, they'd run this god awful millennial car that had all these like millennial internet phrases and stuff on it. It was pretty terrible. And of course, as we know, Harvick did not win the championship. And so Busch hinted earlier this year that they were going to run the car. And then we heard that it was going to run at the All-Star race. And then this week we got to see it. There's a link in the show notes to show it to you if you want to check it out if you haven't seen it yet. James doesn't like it. James, why don't you like it?
Because it's not authentic to the original. That's it.
I
That's my
like
biggest
it. I
beef.
mean, I think it's, I get it. The number is the normal style of the number, and the Busch beer logo is the normal logo on the front. But, I get it. Corporate got a hold of it, and they ruined it, and I put air quotes
Dig, get a
around
hold
it.
of it.
I
Dig, get a
agree
hold
with that. But I think this is faithful enough to the original concept and still allow the branding to work that I'm very satisfied with this.
Ah,
I love it. I think it's great. I just think that it's cool. I remember a time back, and I don't remember who was even in the cars, if it was Junior and Rusty or if it was Junior and Kurt or who it was, but I remember one of the beer companies tried to, between Budweiser and Miller, tried to do a thing where whoever finished above who, the other driver would run their paint scheme on their car. And I don't remember which one was, I feel like it was Miller that was putting it up, and it was Bud that said, we're not doing that.
yeah, that sounds like a Miller thing.
And I was really disappointed by that. So the fact that they've actually carried through on this and done something of the sort is almost as good as the Kyle Busch pink rainbow car that he ran in the Xfinity Series. Actually, I think it's better because the Kyle Busch pink rainbow car that ran was an Xfinity Series race and not a Cup Series race where it should have been because it was a Cup car in the commercial. So I'm happy.
Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, it's a fine looking ugly car. If you're into ugly looking, it's better than it's a better ugly car than what Corey LaJoy was running earlier this year.
Oh, I loved Corey LaJoy's car too.
With his face on there, but I thought when they said they were going to run, here's my beef. It's my only beef. When they said they were going to run that car, I thought they were going to run that car, that paint scheme. I assumed Busch would slap a logo on there, but it's mostly Busch logos.
It says Busch AF on the front, man.
It's got emojis on. God,
It's awful, but it's great.
just
Don't be a hater.
I had my hopes up. I set the bar too high. I forget that corporate America is going to ruin everything at some point, and they typically do.
It's not ruined, though. It'd be ruined if they said he couldn't run it. It's better than nothing.
I guess. Yeah, it's better than nothing.
I win.
You did. You did win this one.
That seems to be the consensus.
I can
on
still be
Reddit.
grumpy about it. I can concede that you won, but I can still be grumpy.
Like I said, that seems to be the consensus on Reddit. People are pretty happy that they're at least carrying through with it because honestly, they didn't have to at all. They could have completely just ignored that it ever occurred, deleted the tweet, and everybody would have forgotten about it by now. So I'm glad
they're going to run it in the worst race of the season in the All-Star race. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of fitting. You get the ugliest car in the worst race, and you're good to go.
Hey, the All-Star race was good last year.
Well,
We talked about it and we liked it.
that's revisionist history.
I'll pull the audio, James. I'll pull the audio.
I think I was putting up a fight, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
pretty
putting
sure
up a
you
fight.
were hating
I'm
on it because you
usually-
hate on
yeah.
everything.
Well, somebody's got to keep you in check.
Right. I'm the optimistic one usually, and James is hating on it. And every once in a
Which
while
is-
we reverse roles, but
Yeah, I think in life I may be more optimistic.
you definitely are. Yeah,
But when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's like a role reversal. It's weird.
it is really weird. I just like to be opposite of you anyway, so that's part
Yeah,
of it.
it's more fun, and we don't do that. We don't do that enough.
Right.
By the way.
Yeah, it usually ends up that we end up with the same opinion, and that's not fun. So
We have to get near a fist fight at some point.
there you go.
I think that would be very
That
entertaining.
might be pushing it a little bit, but
Yeah, I don't want to fight you.
we're on Skype, so it'd be really hard to do. So I guess it's
Right.
okay. We could just be mad at each other, maybe hang up in the middle of the podcast.
That'd be entertaining.
I would definitely post that audio.
Oh yeah. I'm surprised you haven't, as the keeper of the audio, I'm surprised you haven't burned me at some point with our pre-race or our pre-podcast audio, which
Yeah.
usually would land me in trouble with
Well,
someone.
it would land me in trouble usually as well. So it's just best.
If my wife heard the way I talk before we start the podcast, oh.
Well, guess what I'm putting at the end today. Anyway.
Right.
Let's see a little bit more news. We hinted at it already. Denny Hamlin was actually suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning during and at the end of the race on Monday. There's really a whole lot else to say with that, but ended up getting treatment after the race. Anything to add to that, James?
No, that's scary. It's a nice, well, not nice isn't the right word,
Right.
but it's a reminder that what these guys do, it's not only like dangerous in regards to crashing,
Right.
but these are like metal machines that are pushing out exhaust fumes and all this other stuff. And yeah, it's still a dangerous sport. Even something like this that you don't think of can affect these guys.
I don't think people really take enough time. The problem with our sport is that these guys drive cars, and all of us drive cars. You know, we're used to driving cars. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
But the type of cars that they drive, I just don't think that there's enough of an understanding, even for the diehards in the sport.
Oh, it's a meat blender, man.
Yeah, you're
really
talking.
is.
I mean, you're talking 120 degrees or more in this car, and you're like, oh, they have cool suits. No, they have a hose that blows, semi-cool air into their helmet, and that's the relief that they get. And half the time that doesn't work. And if it does work, the crew chief would rather plug the hole up that the air is coming in through, so they get better aero, than to run that anyway, because it slows the car down. And, not only that, but you've got the heat from everything. Your car has so much, padding and insulation and all that stuff that's in the floorboards between you and the motor to keep you from feeling anything off of that motor. If you've ever been in a truck, like pulling a trailer, and you feel the transmission get hot, that's like normal in these cars. Like, there isn't any of that stuff there. That's all weight that they don't want to have. So there's no comfort to this whatsoever. If you ever sat in a racing seat, they're not comfortable at all. And you can't move. And then the G-forces that you feel in these turns, let me tell you, I posted the video last year, did the pace car ride at Michigan International Speedway last year with Richard Childress driving. We did 130 on the straightaways, and we were going about 100 in the corners. And this is Michigan. It's a 2-mile track. This is a big, wide turn track that you probably have the least amount of G's on of any other track on the circuit, especially compared to like Dover, for example. And I'll tell you what, it was freaking amazing how much it was throwing you into the seat and how hard it was to actually sit upright going around these corners. It looks like on TV, like it's just a nice smooth ride. You just cruise around, but it throws you in the seat. There's these conditions that these drivers deal with is crazy. And then add to it being sick or suffering from carbon monoxide issues. It's nuts.
Yeah. You painted it perfectly. It's
miserable. Why would you want to do this?
Yeah, I know. We forget about that stuff, though.
Seriously, stand next to a car on pit road when it's running and feel the heat coming off of it. Now, better yet, go sit in your black car with the windows down, not moving. Don't run the air. Don't run anything. Just sit in the car on an 80 or 90 degree day and tell me how hot you are just sitting there. Now, tape everything off and generate more heat in there, and that's what you're dealing with. I mean,
it's intense, man. That's why Jimmy Johnson compared driving a race car in a marathon so similarly. It puts your body through just a vicious, cycle of stuff.
Yeah,
that you got to deal with.
Do you have to be an athlete? Do you have to be, super fit to drive one of these things? No, you don't. But you're going to deal with it better if you are.
Right.
It's
there's a reason Jimmy Johnson's got 83 wins and 7 championships.
Exactly. Sitting in one of these cars for Jimmy Johnson, the athlete, is going to be a lot better, a lot more comfortable for him than it is for, Jimmy Spencer, for example.
Right.
But both can do it. But it's just,
Is
anyway.
Tony Stewart the great exception?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Tony was actually fit for a while.
Yeah. He was pretty good. When he geared it up, he was in pretty good shape.
Yeah, when he was on the Subway diet, hanging with Jared, if he had the Subway sponsorship, he was doing good. And then he got the Burger King sponsorship back, and things went downhill. And then he retired. So,
went the complete opposite way.
Yeah,
yeah.
So the big news for the week, though, James. I know you've been dying to hear the news. Apparently, Danica Patrick posted on her Instagram and got everybody in a tizzy because they thought she might be pregnant, but guess what? She's not. Now you can rest easy knowing that Danica Patrick is not pregnant.
Listen, I'm just happy that Aaron Rodgers isn't reproducing sons that can all kick the Lions' butt twice a year.
Yeah,
That's the big thing.
there you go.
We don't need any more Aaron Rodgerses playing quarterback.
No,
Danica. We haven't talked about Danica in a long time.
I know.
Boy.
That's the only reason I put it in here. I don't want to dwell on this at all. As a matter of fact, we've already spent too much time on it.
Is our podcast being purchased by E? Is that
It could be.
or TMZ?
Maybe that's what we need to like get the listenership. Maybe we need to
Start doing gossip?
Yeah, we'll start doing NASCAR gossip.
I could make up so much stuff.
I mean, that's all they do. They just make stuff up. So
Yeah.
think
I could
we
do
can
that.
We probably need better lawyers than what we have, though.
Well, the problem is though. Well, no, maybe it's not a problem. People would believe a lot of this stuff after what Kurt Busch went through a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, anything is possible.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff we wouldn't even have to make up.
I know it would probably just happen.
Yeah. All
Joey
right.
Logano would be reading the paper or listening to the podcast, and he'd be like, "What the heck?" And
Hey, speaking of Joey Logano went in the stands and signed autographs during the rain delay again. How awesome
that's
is that?
cool.
This guy's the
That's cool that he
champ.
does. Yeah,
That's
he
great.
is the man. No, he's a nice dude, man.
Yeah. You can't say anything bad about Joey.
He's pretty genuine.
He's
He's kind of a dork, but he's a genuine dork.
Exactly. He owns it too. Like he's totally good with it.
Yeah, own it.
Yep.
I love it.
There you go. All right, Kansas Speedway this weekend. It's the Digital Ally 400, apparently, because that's what you put in the show notes.
Yeah, that's what the internet told me.
We're back to the aero duct low horsepower whatever aero package thing that we got. Yeah, so back to that stuff. We'll see. I think Kansas is going to be the best example, especially at this point in the season, of what we're going to see a little bit more now. We're back to the traditional 1.5 mile track. We ran the first one at Vegas, but nobody really knew what they were getting. Kansas has been a kind of a treacherous track lately, although it was pretty clean in the fall last year. But otherwise, it's been pretty treacherous. So we'll see what happens this weekend. It could be
A lot of big wrecks there.
Yeah.
Big hard wrecks.
weird wrecks. Yeah, we've had cars airborne and stuff like that, and people hurt. I mean, it's been a while since we've had anybody hurt, thank God, in the sport, period. I guess Kyle Busch, probably the most recent, like, notable one back at Daytona a few years ago.
Yeah.
But, this is the race that ended Sterling Marlin's chance at a championship, was Kansas Speedway. So,
Yeah.
let's see, James, you get the first pick, I believe, according to what you put in the notes, and I'll believe anything that's
Yeah.
written down. So who's your pick?
I'm going Penske,
Okay.
and I'm going Ryan Blaney. I'm going back
Wow.
to. Yeah, it's time. He's got to get a win for Penske. Going Ryan Blaney.
Interesting. That's a really
He's been pretty
interesting
good.
one.
He's been pretty good there. He's got 8 starts and 5 top 10s. Not the best statistical driver that I could have picked, but I like what Penske's doing and possibly his time.
Interesting. I am going to go a little further back in the statistics from you, and I'm going to stick with momentum. And I guess it's not that much of a stretch because he's got to win there, but I'm going Chase Elliott. So
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, he's probably 1A pick right now. Other than, guys to mention, though, Kevin Harvick, 26 races and a 9.7 average finish. So that's pretty stout.
Yeah.
That many races, 3 wins.
But again, it's a different package, so that's kind of who knows.
Yeah, we don't know, but what we do know is Fords have been fast, and Chase Elliott's he's running well. So, and he won last fall.
I am gonna go. I get dark horse pick first. I'm gonna go way out on a limb here, and not look at statistics at all. But I'm gonna stick with the momentum theme, and I'm gonna go Alex Bowman as my dark horse.
That is a really good one. Really good one. A driver who's been pretty good here for me, as of late. I'll go Austin Dillon.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yep. And he's been pretty fast with this package, for relatively fast.
Yeah.
Where he usually is. So
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, Dillon's a restrictor plate racer. He's always been good on the restrictor plates. I think this package we've kind of discussed is kind of the closest you can get to restrictor plate without having restrictor plate. So,
and they won't be lifting too much at Kansas, right?
No,
I mean,
it's going to be pretty
there's
wide
a lot
open.
of grip. There's a lot of grip there.
There's a lot of grip there. There's enough banking. It's going to be pretty wide open.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping Brendan Gaughan was running. He's second on the average finish list at 10.0, but he's got one career start
One
there.
race.
Yeah, one race.
One race, one top 10. That might as well
Hey,
not come
that's-
back, right?
That's what he does, yeah.
Any shout outs, James, this week?
I do not actually. It's
don't
been a
think I
pretty
do either.
quiet week.
Oh, you know what? I do want to do one more shout out because we shouted him out last week and I got a response from him. Baron Raceway, that is actually the way it's pronounced. He confirmed.
Yeah, we brought it up last week.
Yep. So Baron Raceway on Instagram. If you missed last week's podcast, we talked about it. It's a model, 0.4 mile, 164 scale model racetrack. Pretty neat. And so I chatted with him a little bit. He is planning on going to Chicago Speedway this year for the summer race there. My plan at this time is to be there as well. So I'm going to try and hook up with him in Chicago if I do go out there. That's cool. And maybe do a little interview, get him on the podcast. So
yeah, and we were speculating he was a Michigan guy, and sure enough,
yeah, yep,
Michigan guy.
There you go. So
there you go. The
awesome.
Mitten State, strong.
Yep. So if you didn't check him out last week, if you go to thesuperspeedway.com, you'll find our show notes and just look at last week's show notes, and the link will be in there to his Instagram page. Pretty cool deal. And he's been updating it, adding some things. He put a Chase Elliott doing a burnout in there after winning yesterday. So pretty cool. Check it out.
Yeah.
James, Fantasy League. Let's talk about the Fantasy League because I forgot to pick my drivers again for the second week in a row. And I finished 5th as a result, despite picking the winner.
Not terrible. Not
no,
terrible.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So I had
only 10 points above last. So
right, exactly. So I had a pretty good week. Actually, everybody on the league had a pretty good week. There wasn't much separation. But Ranger Runyon's our winner, 233. I was second, 213, and Scoters was third, 204. So that puts our overall standings. I'll just do top 3 for now. Freight Train at 1956, Justin 713, 1948, and Ranger Runyon continues to storm the leaderboard. He is third now, 1922. So really close at the top, and then you and I are fighting it out at the bottom.
Yeah,
near the bottom.
Yeah, Scoters is below us, but that's it.
That's it. Yeah. So yeah, and actually Ranger reached out to me on Twitter and he's like, "Sorry, man, close but no cigar." And I was like, "Yeah, well." Don't want to get me too prideful on the fantasy league. Keep kicking my butt, man. That's what it's all about.
Nice. I guess it's supposed to be like we're not supposed to win our own league, right? That would be like conflict of interest or something.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I'm not gonna admit that we're letting guys win.
Right.
That's absolutely not what's going on.
Well,
we are legitimately getting our butts kicked, which is great.
Well, I'm not intentionally letting other people win.
Oh God, I'd never do that. But when I mean, listen,
it is happening, but I'm not intentionally doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I am a legitimate starting park at this point. So, yeah, I'm not going to get away. I don't anticipate winning any races at this point. It's been so bad.
Yeah,
but I was feeling pretty good about myself. If I could have got a couple of bonus points, I might have been there. But it's all right.
I haven't used the sound effects in a while. This is my fantasy season. There you go.
Seasons, yeah.
All right. Anything else, James, before we head on out of here? I think we're a little quick this week.
That's all right.
Not much news to talk about after Dover. It was pretty quiet.
Oh, well, and we got a quick turnaround, like we said. We're going Monday, and we usually don't do the podcast one day after a race, but kind of the way it's been, and it's, I'm sure we'll have some news coming out later this week. Just keep an eye on the old Twitter, and it'll come out. So
there you go. James, we're going to find you on social media if they want to keep an eye on the Twitter. See, look at that transition. We are pros.
I know. So good. At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. As I mentioned, you can find us on the web at thesuperspeedway.com. You'll find the show notes on there, links to the articles we've talked about, links to past coverage, photos, things like that from the track. Hopefully, definitely in a couple weeks, I'll be at Michigan for the June race. Just a couple weeks away there, so I'll have coverage from that. Haven't decided exactly what that coverage is going to look like yet, whether it's going to be photo or writing or a mix or whatever. But keep an eye on that. That'll be coming, and hopefully Chicago and the other Michigan race as well. And Kentucky. Don't forget Kentucky. Kentucky's definitely happening. Michigan is definitely happening. Chicago is the only one that's up in the air right now. So you can find the podcast on there as well. Find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud, wherever you listen to us today. We hope that you subscribe and continue to do so. If you want to become a part of the show or help contribute, become a patron at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. Let's see. We go to the Digital Ally, right? Digital Ally.
Something like that.
Yeah, 400 at Kansas Speedway. this weekend. We'll be back next week to talk about it. And until then, everybody, let's go racing.